Hello, welcome back. Is speaking the most important skill? This is not my question. This is a question from one of you guys on Instagram. And it got me thinking about it because I know that speaking is the skill that we worry about the most. Most students do. So you practice your speaking, you feel like you've got this, and then you go out into the real world and it's a massive struggle. So maybe you're talking to your boss and your boss already freaks you out a bit because she or he has a difficult accent for you to understand. So every time you approach your boss, you are already feeling a little bit on edge. And I love this expression. A little bit nervous, a little bit on edge, thinking, what if I don't understand? Or what if I speak wrong? I make lots of mistakes and my boss doesn't understand what I mean, and we have this problem in our communication. Yes, so that's already there. You're already thinking about this before you even get to the office, knock on the door, and say, hello, do you have a minute? I get it. I know that there are lots of situations involving speaking that make you very nervous. And at the same time, you feel a bit disheartened by all the effort you seem to make and the speaking doesn't seem to follow. So it's like you're making a lot of effort, and when you actually get to the situation where all of those things you've been learning have to find a way out, they don't in the way that you would expect. The thing is, I do think speaking is the second most important skill. The first most important skill for me, in my opinion, as a learner, former English learner and teacher, is listening. Listening is the number one skill, in my opinion, and I'll explain to you why. Without listening, speaking simply does not happen. The only way for speaking to even occur is through the previous listening that you have done. So, bottom line, speaking is a result of listening, which explains why people who are very good listeners, I am a very good listener, people who pay attention, people who listen more than they speak, people who are genuinely interested in what the other person has to say tend to speak better because they are actually present in the interaction, in the conversation they're having with somebody else. And that makes their brain absorb things better. Whereas, I'm going to give you another side of the argument now. I'm going to give you some sort of different view now. Whereas people who talk a lot, so usually extroverts or very outgoing people, people with a very bubbly personality, those people who are usually very friendly, they talk to everyone, you know when they're there because you can't miss them, they're loud. This kind of people usually speak worse English because all they care about is speaking. They crave interaction so much that they just want to be able to talk in English and to make friends and to bond with people and to have fun and to sell themselves and to somehow feel good about interacting in English. Is that a problem? Well, no, if they are not too bothered by mistakes or the fact that it would be harder for them to use vocabulary they're learning. So you'll learn new words and your brain needs to consciously make an effort to bring those into your speaking. And when you're speaking like there's no tomorrow. It's an expression meaning you're speaking a lot and you're not slowing down to pay attention. It's going to be a lot harder for your brain to retrieve those new words and structures and expressions. So something I have noticed over the years is that good listeners tend to speak better because they give themselves a better chance of internalizing the new structures. So this happens with me a lot. In fact, it happens every single time I have an interaction in English. If not every single time, 99% of my interactions in English, okay? Even when it's a passive thing. So it happens when I'm interacting, and it also happens if I'm watching something, sometimes reading as well, but mostly watching or listening. I will be paying so much attention to what that person's saying, the way they are putting those sentences together, because I have gotten into the habit of doing that over the years. That was me full on for the whole 12 years I lived in England. I was constantly paying attention, so I can't not pay attention because that's how I am in English. So I'm constantly paying attention. My brain is constantly kind of choosing things. So, I like that. That suits my personality. Maybe I'll try to remember that later. Or, okay, this is a new word. I get the meaning, but this sounds like slang that doesn't really suit me, so I don't need to bother about using this myself. Oh, hold on, I never thought of saying it like that. That's a very good sentence. So I'm constantly doing that when I'm interacting. Even if it's a really sort of unconscious thing, I know I'm doing it because next thing I know, so I'm talking to someone new, next thing I know, tomorrow, I'm probably going to hear the word they said to me somewhere else and I'll remember them and I'll be like, oh, hold on, I think they said that yesterday. So there you go. I have come to the conclusion that because I listen so much, and I have done from the very beginning of my learning, from day one, because there's a story on 100 Days, the very first experience of 100 Days, day one of 100 Days, is about one of my first experiences in English when I had just arrived in England. It was the first week of my life in England. And I was already listening so close without knowing any English at all, without having anything to fall back on. It was really just about hearing and trying to make some sense of something, even if it was one word out of 300 that that person had said. So this gives me such an amazing opportunity to be really conscious about my improvement as a learner, because a teacher should always be a learner. And the fact that English is not my language makes me a learner by default. There's nothing I can do about that unless I don't care about improvement, which would be insane as a teacher. So it's a bit of a given for me. It's just how my life is. So those who listen can retrieve words better, can learn more from what the other person's saying, can understand more about themselves as a foreign language speaker. So they can be asking themselves questions such as, would this suit my personality? Yes or no? Because as I said before, I don't want you to sound like a robot and just repeat what everyone's saying around you. I'm 37. If I'm then talking to a 14-year-old from Liverpool, I don't want to talk like them. That's not my personality at all. It doesn't suit me. It doesn't suit my life. It doesn't suit my age. It doesn't suit anything. You know, my education background. It just doesn't suit anything. So you have to learn to somehow filter what you're hearing and choose things that actually, you know, do justice to everything you've been doing to learn this language. Also, people who listen more are able to hear pronunciation better. So those who only care about speaking, and this is really, it could have been a proper study on this, because I have been observing since I arrived in England 21 years ago. That was when I literally set foot in the country, 21 years ago. So since then, I've been paying attention. And I have noticed that those people who don't care about listening, all they care about is speaking, have very messy grammar, and they translate from their language a lot. I only know this about Portuguese because that's the only language I speak other than English, but I can see it. Those who talk a lot, they are translating like there's no tomorrow. They are translating all the expressions into English. It sounds really bad because you don't translate expressions. Most of the time, it's going to be wrong. It won't make sense. You don't translate structures because most of the time, it's going to be wrong. But all they care about is getting those words out. So they, whatever, I'm translating, but you get it, don't you? Well, no. The person does not understand what you're saying. They don't know what that is. And they are not paying attention to pronunciation. The person is correcting them. So the person you're talking to is correcting you. They are saying it back to you in the right way, whether it's pronunciation or structure or even vocabulary. But all you care about, if you are like that, is speaking and speaking and speaking, and you don't pick up on those corrections. So overall, it's awful, isn't it? Is speaking the most important skill? No, because speaking comes from your listening. So without very good listening, you're never going to be able to speak well. Speaking is just a result of other things that you do. And at the same time, without practicing speaking, without actually getting those words out, allowing your muscles to develop, allowing your brain to start to form your structures and to kind of construct some sort of thinking in English, you're going to have to practice that. You don't get to that stage without practicing. At the same time, if all you do is repeat the same old sentences every day in the wrong way, without challenging yourself to learn more vocabulary, without trying to do it in a better way, without even thinking about pronunciation, your speaking is simply not going to improve. Learn this. Speaking does not get better just because you're speaking. Speaking gets better when you're paying attention to what the other person's saying so that you can bring that into your speaking, when you're able to hear your mistakes, when you're brave enough to correct them, there and then, the moment it happens, the moment it slips out, because it's going to slip out. It's going to slip out, I'm telling you. So that's it. Speaking is so important because that's the whole point of learning a language, right? Language is about establishing some sort of communication with people. That's what we use language for. So you want to be able to speak well, for sure. Yes, 100%. But for that to happen, listening has to come first. Shut your mouth and start listening to people. Most extroverts struggle to speak well because all they care about is talking and talking and talking, and they're just waffling on non-stop for half an hour when the other person is just trying to say one sentence to them. Don't be like that. Not only is it not good for your English, but it's also not good for your relationships. Nobody wants to hang out with someone who doesn't shut up about themselves. Wow, that was intense. I really needed to just say that today for some reason, right? For some reason, God knows why. I hope this has been helpful, and I know that all you care about is being able to speak better, and you should care about that so much. But in order for that to happen, do not neglect your listening. All right? All right. Thanks for watching. See you later.